A store owner hired a woman with a disability intending to mock her. But when he installed a security camera, he couldn't believe what his eyes were seeing. But before that, consider subscribing to the channel so we can keep sharing amazing stories. In a small town in England, there was a store run by Paul, a rough and prejudiced man. Paul, a middle-aged man with gray hair and piercing blue eyes, was known for his gruff manner and dismissive attitude towards those different from him. His store was located in the middle of the main street, surrounded by old brick buildings that exuded the charm of bygone times. Despite the central location of the store and the need to care for the community, Paul was known for often treating his customers with indifference. His prejudices were obvious, and he did not hesitate to show them openly. The people in the town knew Paul well. They knew that he did not like it when someone lingered in the store without buying anything. The children were afraid of him because he regularly greeted them with angry looks and often rudely asked them to leave the store. Paul's behavior was often the topic of conversation in the town, and many avoided his store whenever possible. Those who did visit the store did so out of necessity and tried to complete their purchases as quickly as possible. The store itself was small but well-stocked with everyday groceries and household items. Paul had inherited the store from his father and had been running it for years in his own way. The business was more of a duty than a passion for him, and this was reflected in his daily work. His aversion to change and his rigid attitude made it difficult for the town's residents to get along with him. Paul lived alone in a small apartment above the store. His life was marked by routines and loneliness. The few friends he had often shared his views, which only reinforced his intolerant attitude. Paul was well aware of the negative opinion most people in town had of him, but that seemed to matter little to him. For him, only the daily routine of his business and maintaining order as he understood it mattered. Despite everything, Paul's store was an integral part of town life. The necessity of buying basic daily necessities kept bringing people back to his store. And so Paul continued to live in a constant succession of days that were hardly different from one another, until that fateful day when a new employee entered his store and changed everything. One cold morning, Luna, a woman with a visible physical disability, entered Paul's store. She moved slowly and laboriously, supported by a walker. Her eyes, filled with deep determination and a hint of desperation, scanned the store until she spotted Paul, who was standing behind the counter, looking at her with his usual grim expression. Luna, whose dark hair was streaked with gray, wore a worn-out coat and simple clothes that showed signs of many years of use. She approached the counter and cleared her throat to get Paul's attention. "Excuse me," she began in a trembling voice. "I'm looking for work. I know there aren't many opportunities here in town, but I'm willing to take on any task you can offer." Paul looked at her skeptically, narrowing his eyes. "Work?" he asked, his voice dripping with disbelief. Luna nodded, gripping the walker tightly. "Yes, please. I really need a job. I can stock shelves, clean whatever is necessary. I need this chance." Her words were urgent and sincere. The desperation was unmistakable, and it was clear that Luna needed this job more than anything else. Her face, marked by worry and hard work, reflected her determination. She lowered her gaze and waited for Paul's response, her hope hanging by a thread. Paul watched her silently for a moment, his thoughts hidden behind an inscrutable expression. The silence in the store was almost palpable, with only the faint hum of the refrigerators and the occasional crackling of the old neon lights breaking it. Finally, Paul nodded slowly, a cynical smile spreading across his face. "All right," he said at last. "I'll see what I can do for you. Come back tomorrow and we'll discuss the details." Luna's face lit up as she thanked him repeatedly before leaving the store. She had no idea what Paul really had in mind, but for the moment, the hope ignited by this tiny spark of possibility was all that mattered. As Luna left the store, Paul began to think about her request. He immediately recognized her vulnerability and saw it as an opportunity to find his dark kind of entertainment. He had never intended to truly help Luna or give her a fair chance. Instead, he devised a plan to humiliate her and revel in her struggles. Paul remembered the many times he had bullied other customers and employees to feel superior. The idea that Luna, with her visible disabilities and desperate situation, would be the perfect target for his malicious entertainment made him grin. He imagined her struggling to stock shelves or having difficulty performing simple tasks. These thoughts filled him with sadistic anticipation. He knew that most people in town pitied Luna and saw her as a symbol of resilience and courage. Paul, however, saw only an opportunity to alleviate his boredom. He couldn't wait to monitor Luna at work and laugh at her perceived incompetence. The camera he had recently installed in the store would help him capture her every mistake and enjoy it later. Paul's anticipation grew with every thought of the next day. The prospect of tormenting Luna and destroying her dignity gave him a sense of power and control. For him, this was not only a way to indulge his sadistic tendencies, but also a method to break the monotony of his daily life. He looked forward to welcoming Luna the next day and starting his perverse game. The first days of Luna's work at the store were tough and challenging. Luna moved slowly, her physical disability making every movement laborious and painful. Nevertheless, her determination was unwavering. She came early every morning, her face set with a firm expression, ready to tackle her tasks no matter how difficult they were. Luna spent a lot of time stocking shelves. Every step and movement seemed to require immense effort. She lifted boxes, sorted goods, and cleaned the store as best as she could. Her hands often trembled from the exertion, but she never stopped. She knew that this job was her only chance to have an income and maintain a piece of her dignity. Paul watched her from a distance, his eyes gleaming with malice. He had expected Luna to give up soon, to succumb to the challenges and leave the store. But to his annoyance, the opposite was happening. Luna's unbroken will and ability to keep going despite all odds frustrated him. Her determination stood in stark contrast to his own pathetic pleasure in her perceived weakness. The customers who came to the store noticed Luna's efforts. Some offered their help when they saw her struggling to carry heavy items. Others praised her for her hard work and courage. These positive responses only strengthened her determination to keep going, no matter how much Paul pushed her or how many extra tasks he gave her to exhaust her. Paul's plans to humiliate Luna seemed to be failing. Instead, she displayed strength and courage that exposed his own lowly intentions. The more he tried to overwhelm her, the more she proved to him and the customers that she was far more than her disability. This unexpected outcome of his plans made Paul angry and even more determined to find a way to break Luna. Frustrated by Luna's unwavering determination and the respect she received from the customers, Paul decided to devise a new plan. Sitting thoughtfully in his office, he pondered how he could finally expose Luna. Then an idea struck him: to install a camera to record her movements in the store. He imagined watching the footage later, enjoying every embarrassing moment, every mishap, and every weakness of Luna. The camera would capture all the little stumbles, awkward movements, and strenuous moments she had to endure. It was the perfect way to humiliate her without having to intervene directly. The next day, Paul installed a surveillance camera. He placed it in a discreet spot that covered the entire store area. The camera was small and hardly visible to anyone who didn't know it was there. Paul set it up to capture primarily the area where Luna spent most of her time: the shelves, the cash register, and the cleaning area. After installing the camera, Paul checked the recordings to ensure everything was working as planned. He could hardly wait to see the first embarrassing moments of Luna and laugh at them later. His plan to humiliate her and break her determination seemed to be finally taking shape. Paul felt triumphant as he looked at his handiwork. The camera was his new tool of malice, and he was convinced that he would ultimately bring Luna to her knees with it. However, while he was plotting his sadistic plans, he had no idea that the camera would soon record something entirely different, something that would shake him to his core. Against all expectations, Luna began to form a special bond with the store's regular customers. Her friendly manner and unwavering dedication to her work left a lasting impression on the customers. Every morning, when Luna opened the store, she greeted the customers with a warm smile and kind words, turning Paul's otherwise dreary and cold store into a place of warmth. The elderly ladies who regularly came to do their daily shopping found a patient listener in Luna. They told her about their families, their worries and joys, and Luna listened attentively, offering comfort and occasionally sharing a small story of her own. The town's children, initially somewhat shy, soon trusted her. Luna always had a little surprise or a comforting word for them, quickly earning their respect and affection. Even the grumpiest customers, who usually said little, began to open up. Luna's sincere friendliness and her willingness to help, if someone couldn't find something or needed help carrying items, made a difference. People noticed that Luna genuinely cared about their well-being, creating an atmosphere of trust and community. Luna developed a keen sense of the customer's needs and preferences. She remembered who preferred which products and made sure they were always in stock. Her attention and care made shopping more pleasant and personal for many. Customers who had previously reluctantly come to Paul's store now looked forward to their visits to have a friendly chat with Luna. People who had avoided the store before now came to experience her and be infected by her positive spirit. The changes Luna brought to the store were not only visible in her dealings with customers, but also in how customers perceived the store and Paul. Luna's influence was profound, and her bonds with the customers grew stronger every day. One afternoon, when the store was particularly busy, Luna noticed an elderly woman struggling to carry her heavy shopping bags. The woman, Mrs. Muller, was a regular customer who, despite her advanced age, still tried to do her shopping independently. Luna, who was busy stocking shelves, saw Mrs. Muller's plight and rushed to help her. With a friendly smile, she offered her assistance. She asked gently, taking the heaviest bags from her. Mrs. Muller was visibly grateful and touched as Luna carried the bags to her car. Along the way, they chatted, and Mrs. Muller told Luna about her family and the difficulties of old age. Luna listened attentively, offering comfort and understanding, and helped Mrs. Muller safely store her groceries in the car. This act of kindness did not go unnoticed, and the customers who observed the event were deeply impressed by Luna's helpfulness. On another day, when the store was particularly hectic, Luna noticed a little girl wandering the aisles, scared and alone. She knelt down to the child and asked lovingly, "Hello, what's your name? Have you lost your parents?" The girl, named Lisa, nodded with tears in her eyes. Luna gently took her hand and reassured her, promising to find her parents. Together, they went to the register, where Luna made an announcement. A few minutes later, a worried mother rushed into the store, frantically searching for her daughter. When she saw Lisa in Luna's care, she broke down in tears and thanked Luna profusely. Luna smiled and modestly said it was only natural to help. The customers who witnessed the incident were deeply moved by Luna's patience and care. These gestures of humanity and compassion quickly spread through the community. Luna's unobtrusive but profound acts of kindness created an atmosphere of trust and gratitude in the store. Customers who had previously been fleeting visitors now felt connected and appreciated the warmth Luna brought to their daily lives. Gradually, the atmosphere in the store began to change. Luna's presence brought a new energy that affected the customers and the entire environment. Where once a cold and distant mood prevailed, warmth and friendliness now spread. Luna's positive attitude and genuine way of dealing with people created an inviting environment that the customers appreciated. The change was subtle but noticeable. The shelves seemed neater, the cash register was always clean and organized, and there was an atmosphere of helpfulness throughout the store. Customers who used to rush through their shopping now lingered longer, chatted with Luna, and enjoyed the positive vibe. The change was so obvious that even those who rarely visited the store noticed the new atmosphere. Luna brought not only kindness, but also a certain order and efficiency to the store. Her attention to detail and her desire to make shopping as pleasant as possible for the customers led to overall better organization. The customers felt welcome and appreciated, resulting in higher customer satisfaction and loyalty. Paul, who initially reluctantly accepted these changes, could not deny that the new atmosphere positively impacted his business. Although he continued to pursue his own plans, he noticed that Luna's influence was steering the store in a direction he had never expected. Customers came more often and bought more, ultimately increasing his revenue. The positive change that Luna brought to the store was undeniable. Her tireless friendliness and dedication created an environment where everyone felt welcome. The store became a place of exchange and community, something Paul alone could never have achieved. Luna's presence was a blessing, illuminating the dark corners of the store and initiating a transformation no one could have foreseen. Paul, increasingly irritated by the changes in the store, began to carefully review the surveillance camera recordings. In his office, isolated from the newly found warmth in the store, he sat in front of the screen and played the videos. He was looking for moments when Luna made mistakes or behaved awkwardly, anything he could use to humiliate her and regain the control he felt he was losing. With narrowed eyes, he stared at the screen as the recordings played. He saw Luna stocking shelves, talking to customers, and cleaning the store. To his annoyance, he could find no significant mistakes or embarrassing moments. Instead, he saw her working tirelessly, always friendly and helpful, and attracting customers with her warm manner. Paul tried to focus on the smallest details, hoping to find something he could use against Luna, but the more he watched, the more frustrated he became. The recordings only showed how diligently she worked, with an engagement that transformed the store in ways he had never thought possible. As he continued to scan the videos, a mix of anger and confusion grew within him. He couldn't understand how one person could bring about such positive changes where he had tried for years to run the store successfully. The fact that his intention to humiliate Luna was failing and instead revealing her virtues only made him angrier. Paul replayed the recordings, hoping he had missed something, but each time he found only scenes that proved Luna's strength and kindness. This ongoing failure to find something against her unraveled him internally. The realization that his plans had failed, and that Luna was indeed the reason for the store's new success, gnawed at him. But instead of embracing the positive changes, Paul's resistance only grew stronger. Paul continued to sit in front of the screen, watching the surveillance camera recordings. As he went through the videos, he kept seeing Luna performing small but significant acts of kindness. He saw her helping an elderly lady carry heavy bags and comforting a little girl who had gotten lost in the store. These scenes were filled with Luna's natural goodness and her willingness to help others. He watched her smile when she talked to customers, and how those smiles were reciprocated. The customers seemed genuinely grateful to her, and the warmth in their eyes was unmistakable. Paul saw how people, who usually exchanged few words, took the time to talk to Luna and accept her help. One customer after another expressed their gratitude, often with simple gestures like a nod, a smile, or even a hug. It was evident that Luna's presence and kindness left a deep impression. These genuine expressions of gratitude and the positive reactions of the customers confused Paul. He could no longer deny that Luna was an extraordinary person, whose heart and soul were in stark contrast to his own, filled with bitterness. As he watched these moments of humanity and compassion, something began to change within Paul. The reality of Luna's nature hit him like a blow. Her true strength lay not only in her work ethic, but in her ability to touch people and make them feel valued. In the recordings, he saw not the mistakes or embarrassments he had expected, but instead the beauty in Luna's actions and the positive impact she had on those around her. This realization gnawed at him. For the first time in a long while, Paul felt a kind of admiration and respect he hadn't expected. He began to understand that Luna's true strength lay in her ability to lead through kindness and compassion, something he had never anticipated from her. Paul sat thoughtfully in his office, the recordings of Luna's kind acts still fresh in his mind. The evidence of her goodness and the genuine gratitude of the customers had deeply affected him. For the first time, he began to seriously question his own attitudes and prejudices. How had he lived so long in a world of cynicism and malice without recognizing the simple truth of human kindness? The images of Luna's actions haunted him. Her ability to act with such decency and warmth, while he himself had only felt bitterness and resentment, was completely foreign to him. He remembered how he had initially hired Luna only to humiliate her and take pleasure in her struggles. Now he saw that her strength and humanity far exceeded anything he had ever expected from her. This inner conflict was new to Paul. He had always believed that his way of living, harsh, cynical, and unyielding, was the only way to survive in a cold world. But Luna proved him wrong. Her kindness was not a weakness, but an enormous strength that benefited not only herself, but everyone around her. Paul felt his worldview begin to waver. Thoughts he had long suppressed now emerged. He remembered his own childhood, moments when he had experienced kindness, and how those moments had helped him. Somehow, he had forgotten or ignored those lessons. Now he was forced to reflect on how he had become the man he was, and why he felt such aversion towards people like Luna. As he sank into these reflections, he realized he was at a crossroads. Would he change his attitude and learn from Luna's example? Or would he continue living in his old bitter way? This inner struggle was difficult and challenged Paul in ways he had never expected. He knew he had to make a choice that could forever change his life and outlook. In a moment of deep reflection, Paul sat alone in his office, letting his thoughts wander. Suddenly he was overwhelmed by a memory from his childhood that he had long suppressed. He thought of his younger sister, Mary, who was also born with a disability. Mary had been disabled from birth, and required constant support and care. Paul remembered how he had treated Mary in their youth. He had often been cruel and impatient with her, viewed her disability as a burden, and treated her with little compassion. As children, he had frequently mocked her and made her feel inferior. He had ignored her needs and been more interested in asserting himself and appearing strong than being a loving brother. These memories now hit Paul with full force. He saw many of Mary's qualities in Luna: the unwavering determination, the kindness, and the ability to lead a fulfilling life despite her disability. The parallels between Luna and Mary were unmistakable and forced Paul to confront his past mistakes. Mary had died a few years ago, and Paul had never taken the opportunity to apologize to her or make up for the lost time. These unspoken apologies and unexpressed love for his sister now gnawed at him. He realized that his aversion to Luna was, in truth, a defensive reaction against his own guilt and regret over his past. This insight shook Paul deeply. He looked at himself in the mirror and recognized the man he had become, bitter and full of remorse. The memory of Mary and the way he had treated her brought tears to his eyes. He felt guilty and knew he had to change something. Luna was like a mirror, showing him his own mistakes, and it became clear to him that he had the chance to act differently and perhaps make up for some of what he had never given his sister. Deeply moved by the memory of his sister, and inspired by Luna's unwavering kindness and determination, Paul decided to change. He realized he could no longer remain stuck in his bitterness and prejudices. It was time to become a better person and give Luna the respect she deserved. The next morning, when Luna entered the store, Paul greeted her with a genuine smile and a friendly "good morning." Luna, surprised by this unexpected kindness, cautiously returned the smile, unsure if Paul truly meant it. But in the following days and weeks, she noticed that Paul's behavior had indeed changed. Paul began to openly appreciate Luna's work. He praised her for her careful organization of the shelves, her friendliness towards customers, and her tireless work ethic. When she needed help, he did not hesitate to pitch in himself, something he had never done before. He recognized how important Luna had become to the store and how much she contributed to the positive atmosphere that attracted more customers. This change in Paul did not go unnoticed by the customers. They saw that he was less grumpy and distant. Instead, they saw a man who was trying to be kind and respectful. Paul began to listen to the customers' stories and genuinely cared for them, much like Luna had always done. He finally understood that a successful business was not just about sales and profit, but also about the relationships and trust one built. Luna herself was deeply touched by Paul's transformation. She had never expected that her simple kindness and hard work could have such an impact on him, but she realized that people could change if they were willing to confront their mistakes and learn from them. She began to approach Paul with a new level of respect, acknowledging that he had found the strength to change. Over time, a respectful working relationship developed between Paul and Luna based on mutual appreciation. Paul's transformation was complete, and he became a man who had not only changed his business, but also fundamentally transformed himself and his attitude. Under Paul's new leadership and Luna's inviting spirit, the store began to flourish. The change was noticeable. Customers who had previously avoided the store or reluctantly visited now came regularly and with joy. The once dark and cold atmosphere had given way to a warm, friendly environment where everyone felt welcome. Paul had learned to appreciate the positive effects of kindness and respect. His newfound openness and commitment to the customer's needs significantly contributed to the new dynamic. He listened to customers' suggestions and wishes, took time for conversations, and showed genuine interest in their stories and needs. Luna, whose infectious kindness and hard work had initially triggered the change, remained the heart of the store. Her relationship with the customers deepened further, and her dedication was visible everywhere. She took care of every detail, ensured the shelves were always well-stocked and tidy, and created an atmosphere of trust and appreciation. The customers noticed and appreciated the changes. They praised Paul for his efforts and told others about the positive experience at the store. Word of mouth led to more and more people visiting the store to experience the warm and welcoming atmosphere themselves. Sales increased, and the store became a central meeting point in the community. The new dynamic in the store was characterized by a symbiosis of Paul's new leadership style and Luna's natural talent for creating a positive environment. Together, they created a place where people felt comfortable and enjoyed shopping. These changes brought not only financial success, but also a deeper connection to the community that appreciated the store and its employees. One evening, as Luna was closing the store and making the final preparations for the next day, she accidentally found an old note from Paul. The note clearly stated his original intention to hire her only to humiliate her and take pleasure in her struggles. The words hit her like a blow, and for a moment, she felt a wave of disappointment and pain. Luna sat down, the note in her hand, and thought about the past months. She remembered how Paul had changed, how he had become kinder and more respectful, and how he had begun to run the store alongside her. She saw the positive changes he had shown in his behavior and his interactions with the customers. This transformation was undeniable. Instead of being discouraged by the discovery of his original intentions, Luna decided to acknowledge Paul's change. She understood that everyone could make mistakes, and that true greatness lay in changing and learning from those mistakes. She decided not to judge him for his past thoughts and plans, but to see the positive impact of his transformation. The next morning, when she met Paul in the store, she calmly spoke to him. "Paul, I found something that hurt me very much," she began, showing him the note. Paul's face turned pale, and he looked down in shame. Before he could say anything, Luna continued, "I know what your intentions were when you hired me, but I also see how much you have changed. I see the new Paul, who has learned to show respect and kindness." Paul looked up, tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Luna. I was a different person then, full of bitterness and prejudice. But you showed me how wrong I was. Your kindness and courage have changed me." Luna smiled gently. "I forgive you, Paul. We all have the ability to change, and I'm glad you took this chance. Let's move forward together and make the store an even better place." These words of forgiveness and recognition strengthened the bond between them and confirmed the positive changes that had taken place. Luna and Paul continued to work side by side, now with a deep understanding and respect for each other, ready to face the future together. One evening, after the store had closed and Luna was finishing the day's final tasks, Paul stayed a moment longer to speak with her. He approached her hesitantly, his eyes showing a mix of remorse and gratitude. "Luna," he began quietly, "I have something to say to you." Luna turned to him and smiled encouragingly. "What is it, Paul?" He took a deep breath and continued, "I am so incredibly grateful to you. You have changed my life. When you started here, I was a different person, bitter, full of prejudice and hatred. But through your kindness and unwavering courage, you showed me how wrong I was. You have helped me not only become a better store owner, but also a better person." Luna, moved by his words, responded gently, "I'm glad to hear that, Paul. Everyone has the ability to change, and I'm happy you chose this path." Paul nodded and continued, "I want to thank you, Luna. Without you, the store wouldn't be what it is today. You have changed not only the store, but also the hearts of the people here. Your kindness has inspired us all." In the following months and years, the store continued to thrive. Customers came in droves, not just for the goods, but for the inviting atmosphere and humanity they found there. Luna and Paul worked hand in hand, and their collaboration took the store to a new level of success. The community around the store grew and thrived. People felt connected through the simple but profound principles of kindness and respect that Luna and Paul embodied. The store became a symbol of the positive changes possible when people choose to do the right thing and treat each other with dignity and compassion. The story didn't end with a flourishing business, but with a united community, strengthened by the power of kindness and mutual respect. Paul, now a man of peace and gratitude, knew he had Luna to thank, a woman whose courage and kindness had forever changed his world.